All right. So this is a hard one. Okay. And like I said, you might see one like this tomorrow. So let's go over it. The way I've been doing it all day is taking the 5 square root of 5x plus 6 over. But it doesn't matter which one you take over to start. You got to get one of them by itself, though. So to me, when I started today, I thought this might be easier. But I should try it maybe the other way. This one, it's not hard. It just gets some big numbers here when we do it. But it's okay. We'll get it figured out. So that leaves me the square root of x minus, or 6 minus x on this side, and then 6 minus the square root of 5x plus 6 on this side. Now, how do I get rid of this radical on the left? Yeah, square both sides, right? So the square gets rid of that radical sign. So I just have 6 minus x. Now here, that means, remember, 6 minus the square root of 5x plus 6 and another 6 minus the square root of 5x plus 6, right? You got to FOIL it, okay? But again, I showed you the shortcut, and that's the way I'm going to do it. So the shortcut way is square the 6, the first term, multiply those two together. So 6 times negative, there's a negative 1 in front. So that's like negative 6 times the square root of 5x plus 6. But remember, you got to double that. What's negative 6 doubled? Anybody? Negative 6 times 2? Negative 12, yeah. And some people forget that middle term, that middle part there. And then you square this. What's the square root of something squared? Itself, right? So that square root symbol just goes away. So that's what it looks like now. So I've got to do this procedure again. I've got to get this radical alone so I can square both sides. Okay? So I'm going to take the 5x over the 6 and the 36. What is 6 plus 36? 42. So I'm just subtracting 42 is what's going on there. So 6 minus 42 is negative 36. Negative 1 minus 5 is negative 6. And then I got negative 12 times the square root of 5x plus 6. Questions so far? Now, normally I like to divide this negative 12 over. But I get negative 6 over negative 12, so I get a half. Okay? So we don't really like having fractions in our problems, right? So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to square both sides from here. Okay? So I'm going to square this, I'm going to square this. And that'll get rid of that radical over here. Now remember, this is one of those binomials that I'm squaring, so it's like foiling again. So I'm doing that, shortcut again. So I'm squaring negative 36. Cassidy, go 36 squared on there for me, please, on your calculator, so I get the right numbers.
$1,296.
Thanks. And then do negative 6 times negative 36 for me. 216?
Yeah.
Right, but I got to double that. Remember, what's 216 doubled? 432? And then I square the negative 6. Negative 6 times negative 6 is a positive 36. X squared. Okay? So that's what that equals. So we're getting some big numbers, but nothing we can't handle. We got our calculator, right? Now, on this side, since there's no plus here, all I got to do is square the 12, or the negative 12, and then square the radical. So negative 12 squared is positive 144. And when you square the radical, you get 5x plus 6. But I got to go 144 times that, so I got to distribute. All right, so let's put this in the order we like. Let's switch the order around. just so it looks more like you're used to. So 36x squared plus 432x plus 1296. What's 144 times 5, Cassidy?
720.
And 144 times 6.
864.
Thanks. Now, I got the x squared. You know, it's a quadratic, like the first 5 problems on this quiz. So I got to set it equal to 0. So I'm subtracting 720x and 864. So that gives me the 0 on the right. And I got my 36. What's that? Thanks. And positive 432. Okay. It just so happens that 36 is a GCF there. Okay. So when I take out the 36, I get x squared minus, I think it's 8x. Somebody check me. And plus 12, I believe. Is that right, Aaron? Okay, thanks. So now it's easy to factor. After all those big numbers, we get this to factor. What are the factors of positive 12 that add up to negative 8? 6 and 2, right? Both negative. Negative 2 times negative 6 is positive 12. Negative 2 and negative 6 when I add is negative 8. So what are my 2 answers? 6 and 2. Can I say 36 equals 0? Is that a true statement? No, so I can't set that equal to 0. If it had an x with it, yeah, but no x there. So when we get done finally, what are we supposed to do with our answers? Plug them in the original, make sure they work, right? So let's plug 6 in. What's 6 minus 6? 0. What's the square root of 0? 0. What's 5 times 6? Plus 6. Square root? Is that true? Yeah, so that worked. What's 6 minus 2? 4. Square root of 4? 2. What's 5 times 4? Oh, wait a minute. 5 times 2, 10, plus 6, 16, square root 4. Does that equal 6? Yeah, so both of them are good answers. A lot of times the ones we've done, when we had 2 answers, only one of them worked, right? But sometimes they both work. All right. So, took us some time, but nothing you guys can't handle, right? All right. So those were the hardest type, I thought. That's why we did it for warm-up today. All right. Going over the quiz, or practice quiz. The first 5 are just quadratic equations, so we got to make sure they're equal to what to start? 0. So I have to do what first? Subtract 3, right? So I get 2x squared plus 5x minus 3 equals 0. All right, so no GCF, right? Remember, we're just thinking through. And it's go down to a regular trinomial, number 5 on our list of factoring steps. So what do I do with the 2 and the negative 3? Got to multiply them, which is negative 6. What factors of negative 6 add up to positive 5? 6 and negative 1. So remember, we rewrite this problem now as 2x squared plus 6x minus 1x minus 3. We turn it into a grouping problem. Remember? And we group first 2, last 2. If that's negative for that third term like it is, just put it in my group. What's common to this group? First group, 2x. What's common to the second group? Negative 1. Nothing's really common, So you can always make it a 1. So you got to put that number there. Remember, because that third term is negative, pull out the negative sign. So what's 2x squared divided by 2x? X. What's 6x divided by 2x? 3. What's negative 1x divided by negative 1? And negative 3 divided by negative 1. Is it working out like we want? Yeah, we got an x plus 3 as one of my factors. And a 2x minus 1 is the other factor. Okay? So what's the red answer? Negative 3, right? Sometimes we forget that it's the opposite, right? Don't forget that tomorrow. Some of you can do this in your head. Some of you can't, and that's okay. Just write it out and do the work. What's the first step? Add 1. What's the next step? Divide by 2. So you get that fraction. So negative 3, positive 1/2 are the two solutions to that quadratic equation. Okay? Any questions? Easy, right? All right. Number 2 was the square root method. In the square root method, we get the squared part alone. Is the squared part alone right now? No. So how do I make it alone? Subtract 16, right? So I get x plus 3 squared. The squared part's alone now. So what can I do to get rid of the squared? Square root it, right? So the square root of something squared is that something, right? What's the square root of negative 16? 4i. What do I got to remember? Plus or minus, right? That's where we make a mistake sometimes. Now, I know you guys won't because you're like the smartest class I've got, right? But previous years, I had kids that would forget that. But none of you will forget that. Right, William?
Sure.
Now, is this finished? No. Is x by itself? No. Chase, how do I get it by itself?
Subtract 3.
Right. So 4i minus 3 and negative 4i minus 3 is what? 1i and negative 7i, right? Alexa says no. Why not?
Honestly, I didn't even know what you said.
Oh.
But it didn't sound right. So.
Oh, it didn't sound right?
No.
Well, some people are saying this is 1i. Is that right? No. Are they like terms? No. So we just write negative 3 plus or minus 4i. But I do get kids sometimes that think you can subtract the 3 from the 4i. They're not like terms. So just write it out. Okay? Questions? Aiden, you with me? Okay. Okay? All right. Complete the square. On this method, we want, Carter.
On the quiz tomorrow, are we gonna have to do all like different, like completing the square and square root procedure?
Right, it would be just like this. The first one by factoring. This one by the square root procedure. Don't square it, add 16, simplify it, and then factor it. Do it this way. It's much easier, simpler. Then complete the square, you got to do this way. Okay? Again, this method means the A and the B part are on the left, and then you put plus blank equals, and then the C part you put on the right. So what happens to this negative 10? It becomes positive 10 because to move it, I got to add it, right? It's always plus blank. How do I figure out the blank? B divided by 2 squared, right? So Braden, what's B?
8,
Divided by 2
4,
squared.
16.
Right. So that's 16 on both sides. 10 plus 16 is 26. When we complete the square, we turn this trinomial into one of those special ones that you can factor with one set of parentheses and square it. You made it one of those perfect square trinomials is what you did. So the way you factor it then is you just take the square root of this x squared, and remember it always has to be 1x squared to do this method, and it will be tomorrow. So the square root of x squared is x. Whatever's in front of the b, plus or minus, goes next. So this one's a plus. And then whatever you put in the blank, take the square root of that. What's the square root of 16? So that's what it looks like. So now number 3 looks like number 2 now, doesn't it? What do we do at this point? We square root, right? So that gives me x plus 4 on the left, plus or minus the square root. Can I simplify 26? Can I do a factor tree and pull out a perfect square? No. So just leave it 26. And then bring the 4 over. Again, they're not like terms, not like radicals, so just write it out. Questions on completing the square? Simple, right? Okay, number 4, quadratic formula. All right, you're supposed to know this. I'll write it out again for you, but tomorrow you better remember it. There's the formula. Okay, again, you're supposed to know that. Vince, you got that down, right?
Yeah, actually, I did.
I know. That's why I said you got it. Now, some people like to do this to start. They like to put right under here, A equals what? 3. B equals -5. C equals 4. Okay, if you want to do that to help you, that's fine. All right? But you don't really have to do that. But remember, there's no variables with those. Okay, every now and then I get a couple students that want to put, when they plug in, they want to put the x squared and the x in there. No variables. The only variable is right here, x equals. All right, that's what you're trying to figure out. Okay, so negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Just plug in the numbers. And then we'll finish it up. The 2 negatives, make that a positive 5. 2 times 3 is 6. All right, and then again, don't put the radical in your calculator. Just put that -5 squared minus 4 times 3 times 4 in your calculator. Well, -5 squared is a positive 25. -4 times 3 is -12. -12 times a positive 4 is -48. 25 minus 48 is a -23. So I'm done, right? Jake, what else I got to do?
You gotta take out the odd.
Right. Got to simplify that radical. So don't forget about that. Since it's negative, pull that imaginary unit out. And then you're finished. Okay? Remember, we always simplify our radicals as much as possible. Good? Okay, number 5. This is also just a quadratic formula problem. Formula, really. You're going to use the quadratic formula to solve it. Okay? But it says this, the cost in dollars of publishing X books. X, we're trying to figure out how many books. we can publish is this: the cost equals this equation. All right? Well, what's the cost we're looking at 325. So that just goes in place of that C, or C of X. All right? So here's the problem that we have to solve. Well, how do we start solving a quadratic equation? Just like the first four before. Got to equal what? 0. So you have to move the 325 over. So you subtract it over. Now, it's in backwards order, right? So if you want to put it in the normal order at this point, go ahead. If that helps you. When some people leave it in that order that it is, you switch your A and your C. A is always the number in front of the what? The x squared. Okay? So maybe to help you not do that, not switch them up, maybe you should rewrite it at this point like this. So that helps you. So you don't mix up your A and your C. Okay? So the 40 minus 325, is that right? That is 285, right? I'm pretty sure I got that right. All right. So now I just plug in, I just use the quadratic formula from here, just like we did the last problem. Just plug into that. All right. So x equals, the number of books we're looking for equals negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a, and that's 3 zeros and a 1. Sometimes we just put only 2. And then negative 285. Don't forget the negative sign. All over 2 times this. Now, I wouldn't waste time putting that in the calculator. Tempe, what's 2 times 0.0001? Yeah, just 2 times 1, right? The zeros are stay there. You guys all can do that in your head, right? Now, let's think about this. This is negative 20 plus or minus. If I subtract a number from a negative number, what kind of number do I still have? Negative. Can I publish a negative number of books? No. I can only publish a positive number of books, right? So I just need to do the addition part here to figure this out. Okay, and I would do it just like you've been doing all the other ones. Just leave your radical there for a minute and do that in your calculator. 20 squared minus 4 times all that. When you do all that, it comes out to 514. Okay? Then I would do this in my calculator. All right, I would do negative 20 plus square root 514, hit enter, and then divide by 0.0002. So how many books can we publish for that amount of money? 13,357. Okay? So tomorrow on your quiz, everything's exactly the same except for what? That amount of money. You're going to get a different amount of money. That's all. Everything else is the same. Okay? Easy. Right, Emily? I knew you would think that. Not a big enough challenge for you. I know. I'm working on it, though. Okay. Any other questions? All right, we're running out of time, so I got to speed it up. All right, another factoring one. What's the GCF? Thanks. Regular trinomial. Only way to get x squared is x times x, right? What factors of negative 40 add up to negative 3? 5 and negative 8, right? So x is 8, x is negative 5. When I set that equal to 0, what do I got to do to both sides? Square root. What's the square root of 0? 0. Does plus or minus really make a difference on 0? No. But there's my answers. Okay? You guys know how to factor. Just do the GCF first. Then it's really easy. I think some of us forgot about doing the GCF. We good? All right, I'm moving on. The fraction ones. What's the common denominator? There's only one denominator. X plus 4, right? So here's what's happening. I'm multiplying this fraction times this fraction. What happens to the x plus 4s? It cancels. What's the answer? 3x. 2, I got to also multiply times x plus 4. So don't forget about that. Same thing's going to happen with this 12 over x plus 4. Those cancel. So what's the answer? 12, but since it's minus 12, right? So that's what it looks like now. A lot easier, right? Now, distribute the 2. 2x plus 8. Subtract the 2x. Get your x's together. 8 minus 12 is negative 4. I'm done, right? What do I got to do on this type of problem? You got to plug it in and check. I only have to plug it in where? Denominator. Is negative 4 a good answer? No. Because negative 4 plus 4 is 0. We're not allowed to have 0 in the denominator, right? So we did everything right, but there's really no solution. Because that negative 4, when I plug it into the original, doesn't work. Okay? All right, number 8. Got to add 6 first. Got to get the radical part isolated, like our warm-up problem. How to get rid of the radical? Square both sides. 6 squared is 36. X minus 4. The square root of x minus 4 squared is x minus 4. Add 4. And you get 40. You should check these, right? Just like number 7, you should check. 40 minus 4 is 36. The square root of 36 is 6. 6 minus 6 is 0. It works. Okay? But check. It might not work. So you might have, it could be a possible no solution there also. Last one. Get the x part isolated. It's not isolated yet. Get that 2 on the other side. Now you just have x to a power. How do I get rid of that 3/2 power? Yeah, raise it to the 2/3 power, right? So you're going caret 2/3. Caret 2/3. Where kids make a mistake, they'll put 27 times 2/3, which is wrong. All right? So when you do that, you get 9. All right? 27 caret 2/3. I got, in my calculator, I have to put it in parentheses. All right? There's a difference. 27 times 2/3 is 18. That's the wrong answer. Okay? So don't forget the caret button on that last one tomorrow. All right. Good job, like always. Remember, this is the first